Today, we're diving into a powerful investigation that looks at the violent, chaotic aftermath of Tanzania's recent general election. We're going to break down what happened and what the official story might be leaving out. I mean, just listen to that. The streets have become a hunting ground. That's the chilling description someone on the ground used as everything erupted. It paints a grim picture, and it's really the jumping-off point for this entire investigation. So let's get the basic timeline down. It all kicks off in late October. There's a general election, but almost immediately, claims of it being unfair start to fly. Thousands of people take to the streets to protest. And the response from the state? It was incredibly swift and incredibly severe. It really plunged the country into a full week of violence. So first up, we're going to look at that immediate fallout. We'll explore the investigation that tried to piece together what was really going on when the world wasn't watching. You know, in the middle of all this chaos, eyewitnesses were often just too terrified to speak out. So how do you get to the truth? Well, an investigation started using open source methods. We're talking analyzing dozens of videos, looking at satellite images, to build a timeline and actually verify the claims that security forces were behind the deaths of civilians. And now we get to the really fascinating part, the forensic analysis. This is the digital detective work that gives us a detailed, almost minute-by-minute account of what went down. We're going to zoom right in on one city, Arusha, because here, a really close look at multiple videos, all from different angles, tells the tragic story of two specific protesters. This is where things get incredibly precise. Okay, so let's walk through this. You see a small group gathering on a corner. Pay attention to the woman in purple and the man in red. Then, armed police move in and take up a position about 100 meters away. Things escalate. After someone shouts, you hear gunshots. The woman is hit in the back. Moments later, the man is shot in the head. And here's the clincher, the final crucial step. A forensic audio analysis confirmed that the sound of the gunshots came directly from the direction of that police line. It's an incredible example of how digital forensics can just cut through all the noise to establish a crystal clear chain of events. And this is the gut-wrenching human reality behind all that data. The woman in purple wasn't just a figure in a video. She was the breadwinner for her family. She had 2 young kids, and she was 3 months pregnant. The man in red was gunned down, and his wife's grief was actually captured on camera. These weren't statistics. These were people's lives, lost right there in the street. Now, as horrifying as that incident in Arusha was, it was just one piece of a much, much larger puzzle. In this next section, we're going to look at the alleged scale of the violence across the entire country. The main opposition party put forward a truly staggering number. They claim that at least 2,000 people were killed during that 1 week of protests. Now, for its part, the government dismissed this figure, calling it hugely exaggerated. But they've refused to provide any official death toll of their own. This quote, it adds such a harrowing layer to the story. It's from a doctor in another city, Mwanza, who was too scared to be identified. He talked about morgues overflowing, and then he alleged something even more sinister, that police were actively stopping doctors from treating the wounded, and instead were taking them straight to the mortuary. And this evidence wasn't just isolated to Mwanza. Over in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania's largest city, a video surfaced showing a very similar scene at Monyamala Hospital. The government immediately called the video fake, but the investigation was able to independently verify its location, which backs up all these accounts of overwhelmed morgues. So with such a high death toll being alleged, the next logical question is, where are the bodies? And that leads us to the fourth part of this investigation, and some really disturbing allegations of a cover-up. The accusation is stark, that security forces used mass graves to hide the true scale of the killing. Eyewitnesses came forward with testimony that young men were ordered to dig sites for mass burials. It seems like an effort to conceal the numbers and just erase the evidence. Now, investigators couldn't physically confirm every one of these alleged graves, but what they could do was analyze satellite imagery. Take a look at the Kinzomdo Cemetery before the protests. The ground looks totally normal, undisturbed. But then look at an image taken after the crackdown. The difference is just stark. You see widespread soil disturbance, a clear visual that strongly supports those allegations of mass burial activity. So, with all of this evidence compiled, everything from forensic video analysis to satellite pictures, what has the official response been? And, what does the future hold for everyone involved? Well, the official response has been pretty contradictory, to say the least. The government calls the opposition's numbers exaggerated, but won't offer its own figures. President Hassan did launch a commission of inquiry, but then, at the same time, she publicly suggested that the protesters were actually paid to be there, a statement that, as you can imagine, sparked fresh outrage. And this is the reality for the survivors right now. While the investigation into what the security forces did remains pretty uncertain, hundreds of young protesters have been officially charged with treason. And in Tanzania, if you're found guilty of treason, that offense carries the death penalty. So we're left with this deeply unsettling picture. On one side, you have a mountain of evidence pointing to a brutal crackdown. On the other, you have the state pursuing capital punishment for the protesters. And it all leaves us with one final, vital question. In a situation like this, what is the fate of truth and justice?